This is Columbus Concerns, a public affairs presentation of North American Broadcasting. Here's your host, Mark Neuse.
Good morning and welcome to the program. We're so glad you joined us today. With us is Colonel Jon Stewart of the Ohio National Guard. Now, Colonel Stewart serves as the Assistant Adjutant General for the Ohio Army National Guard, overseeing thousands of soldiers across the state. And with more than 3 decades of military service, including deployments overseas and extensive experience responding to emergencies here at home, Colonel Stewart brings a lot of experience to the conversation today. And Colonel, thanks so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
What a responsibility it is to command all of those men and women in the Ohio Army National Guard.
It is. It is a privilege and an honor to do it. Some days are a little more chaotic than other days, but it is a career highlight for me personally. It's something that I probably never would have thought I would obtain to at this point, but serving the citizens of Ohio and our soldiers, in every formation, I'm just proud to do it.
What are some of your priorities when it comes to leading these men and women?
Yeah, first and foremost, we got to know why we're here, right? We serve our community, we serve our state, and we serve our nation. And almost in that order. I mean, we live here, we work here. It's one of our mottos. And we are integrated into the schools, especially the colleges and universities where many of our soldiers are students, in the communities and in every aspect of work. And then when we're needed, like we just returned recently from Crooksville area, with some severe flooding down there where Governor DeWine asked us to go down and assist the citizens, which we did. It's very heartfelt to see what we can do. And when you see that look in a citizen's face of relief, when this uniform shows up, I call it's bringing calmness to chaos, and the chaos goes away, it wanes away.
Well, tell us a little bit about what brings you to the station today.
Yeah, first and foremost, we're here to say thank you, because there's many times throughout the year when your stations are running public service announcements for us. We're very closely tied with the Ohio Association of Broadcasters, and in doing so, we get to come around and see some of these places that do so much for us all throughout the year, because we want people to hear our story, and that's what you do for us, and we just want to say thank you.
Well, it's very much, you're welcome, very much.
Yeah.
We love doing it. Talk a little bit about what the difference is between someone being in the Army and someone being in the Army National Guard.
Yeah, the main difference is you're doing both in the Army National Guard. You're a citizen soldier, so you're a citizen and a soldier at the same time. Most of our 80% of our folks are part-time duty. That means 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year generally. After people go to base training, like you're going to hear from Private Hayes, just returned from base training. Now you're gone for a few months to do something like that, and then there are duty assignments that'll take you away every once in a while for longer periods of time. But for the main part, you're 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year. Doing your training, you're keeping up with your profession, your certifications, on the military side, while also still enjoying your civilian employment that you do. Inside of Ohio, we have people who live outside of Ohio that fly back every month to come back in our formations.
So in your job, you have a lot of bosses. You have bosses probably at the Pentagon. You have a boss down at the State House with the governor and the adjutant general. So tell me a little bit about how they command you, and then how you in turn command your troops.
Yeah, I'll start with Governor DeWine. There's not a governor that is more caring for the citizens of Ohio than Governor DeWine, and that is who by far myself and the adjutant general will talk to the most, and to understand what he needs us to do for him, and then we are going to be there for him each and every day of the week. But there is a federal side to what we do. And majority of our funding is actually coming from the federal side, our equipment. And then there's Army doctrine. We're the Army National Guard. We wear U.S. Army. There's Army doctrine, and of course, we follow that. All of our training is, I just returned from Fort Benning, Georgia, as Private Hayes did. But we do training at military installations all over the nation. And then when the president calls us, and that's when we mobilize under a different authority, that's when we'll go either in the United States or outside the United States. Right now we have Ohio Army National Guard soldiers protecting the skies over Washington, D.C. Those soldiers are from Ohio. The southern border, on the border in Texas with Mexico. Those are Ohio Army National Guard soldiers. And then, of course, in the Middle East and other locations around the world.
With us on the program today is Colonel Jon Stewart, the Assistant Adjutant General for the Ohio Army National Guard. But he also brought a couple of folks with him, too. We have Staff Sergeant Terrence Hall, who is a recruiter, and he is a native of Columbus. And we also have Private Nicholas Hayes, who is from Lancaster. And first, Sergeant Hall, tell us a little bit about what your job is when it comes to recruiting.
So my job for the most part is just interacting with the community first and foremost. So I'm a high school recruiter. So I work in the Hilliard area. So I go to the high schools, attend the football games, help out with anything the schools really need. But primarily I'm here to educate people, young people in particular, about the opportunities that come with being in the National Guard. A lot of people, when they look at the military, they just think of it as just something where you see the video games, you see the movies, things like that. But there's so much more to the military, particularly the National Guard, than just what is mainstream. So my job is just to provide a little bit of education, especially with parents, because it's very important that these students have the guidance secretaries, stuff like that. It's very important that they are helping them make these decisions. So that's primarily what I do.
So if you were talking to a recruit, a potential recruit or a parent today, what are some of those advantages that they would have if they joined the National Guard?
Well, first and foremost, they're going to go to training, and then they're going to come right back home. That is what drew me to the National Guard. I always knew I wanted to be in the military. I was looking at being a police officer, a firefighter as well. Being in the National Guard, I've been able to achieve two of those goals. So before I became full-time with the Guard, I was a part-time firefighter down at London Fire Department. Two things about the National Guard. So my original MOS was 25 uniform, which is a communications MOS in the National Guard. I knew nothing about communications before I joined. I was just a high school kid that just graduated high school. So I have that knowledge now. It's a very technical job. In addition to that, I use my Guard benefits to pay for firefighting school. So I'm a firefighter in EMT. They paid for everything, did it at Columbus State. So it's been pretty good.
I think you have a go-getter here, Colonel.
That's right. Yeah.
Got a lot of irons in the fire.
Yes, he does.
Is it easy or is it difficult to recruit high school kids for the Guard?
Surprisingly, the biggest thing when I became a recruiter, so I've been a recruiter about 4 years now, I thought that I would have trouble finding people that were interested in general. That's the general stigma you get about the military, but that's not at all the case. The biggest hiccup that we have is medical issues that may disqualify people. A lot of people are intimidated because of what they read on Reddit or what they hear on TikTok, things like that. So that is a lot. Going back to what you asked earlier, I am a myth buster for that per se. But yeah, just getting through a lot of the stigmas and then getting people to be able to pass the ASVAB is another challenge. But aside from that, it's pretty straightforward.
Less than 1% of our citizens of our nation serve in the armed forces of our nation. It's an astounding number, just how small it is.
Yeah.
And when I talk to, especially young soldiers or new officers, I call them unicorns because everybody can't do it. There's plenty of people that want to join the military, but for whatever reason, maybe it's medical, maybe it's, some other reasons, you can't join. And those that do want to join and that can join and then ultimately do join and ship off to basic training and actually return, those are unicorns. And, it's talk about amazing Americans. Those are amazing Americans. Whether you realize it or not, Private Hayes, Sergeant Hall are amazing Americans.
Well, let's talk to Private Hayes a little bit. Private Nicholas Hayes from Lancaster is here, and tell me about your experience so far. Did you get interested in high school, and then what has happened since then?
So from a very young age, I was always really interested in the military. I think, like Sergeant Hall said, the video games might have got me a little bit, but there was always something keeping me from joining, whether it was things going on in my life through high school that I never did end up joining until I was 23 this year in February when I signed on the dotted line. But everything kind of worked out in my life where I thought this was a good time to join, and I finally did do it, and I don't regret it at all.
Tell me about your experience. Once you did join, what happens then?
So typically you would join in the National Guard and you would go to RSP, and you would go to a readiness program, get you kind of acclimated to the military lifestyle and what you're going to expect in basic training. I was a quick ship, so I just went straight into basic training. And I had to go jump in the deep end, which was it was an experience.
So are you out? You completed basic training.
Yes, so I shipped out on March 17th. I went through reception, and then immediately after that, I went to Alpha Company in the 215 Cavalry Regiment. And then I just graduated July 30th and came back in August.
Colonel, I know a lot of the Guard units have specialized skills. So they learn specialized skills while in the Guard, and then the nation really depends on them because you may have a Guard unit that has a specialized skill that nobody else has.
That's right. You know, in starting with cyber, you know, that's the biggest thing right now out there, as it should be. But we have cyber specialists, you know, in our formations. You know, in the Ohio Army National Guard in particular, we have Special Forces. We have aviation. I don't know if you've ever seen a Blackhawks flying around Columbus. They're over in Rickenbacker. But we have aviation assets as well as the normal things you would think of as an Army, right? Infantry. I'm an armor officer by trade, so the M1 Abrams tanks. And then engineers, military police. You know, we have a wide array of opportunities, but they are specialized skills because, you know, another thing that we have is a Homeland Response Force. So, you know, the Ohio National Guard is prepared to respond to a homeland, you know, disaster, you know, emergency response anywhere within it's FEMA Region 5, so multiple states, you know, surrounding Ohio as well as the state of Ohio.
You know, it's interesting too because it seems like some of the skills that you have to have are so varied because you never know what you're going to be. You could be deployed into a war situation. You could be down on the southern border. You could be in Washington, D.C. How do you train soldiers for so many different jobs?
Yeah, well, you do it by training for, you know, almost the worst case scenario, i.e. make training very difficult, very challenging, so then you can adapt to any situation. When you go out to places, it's not only base training, but when you go out to, you know, the Army's premier training centers, the National Training Center in California, the Joint Readiness Training Center in Louisiana, that is tough. You know, you go there for 30 days and you're in, you know, the quote unquote fight, you know. It is chaotic, it is tough, and it is daunting. But you will never know what your body and your mind can do until you push it to the limits. And that's what we do. So if anyone out there wants to challenge themselves, I'm telling you, there's no better place than coming here. You don't know what your body can do, and I'm telling you, it can do so much more, especially when you're young. When you're, you know, 18 to 25 is definitely our number one demographic that we're looking for. You don't know what your body can do yet. You know, we'll push you to that limit. You know, we'll push you mentally, you know, to that limit, almost to a breaking point, but it builds you up so much. You become part of a team, part of something that you never thought you could be a part of. Because it's not a job. We're not punching a time card. I always call it a way of life. And once you're in it, you know, it is just a different feeling. And it's a good one.
Well, talk a little bit about what you think makes the Ohio Guard different from any of the other states, or is there any difference?
I mean, the difference is what we do and what our capabilities are compared to other states. You know, National Guard as a whole, we all have the same, you know, 3 missions of community, state, and nation. But we enjoy in the state of Ohio being a larger state. You know, our population is a little bit larger than other states. So with that population size, we can grow to be a little bit bigger, to have more capability, to have more capacity to recruit and retain talent here in Ohio. And that's really the biggest difference for us from a state like, let's use Wyoming, right? Very sparse, you know, population. They have a very small National Guard in the state of Wyoming. You know, we can bring a lot to the citizens of Ohio because we have population and some of those other things. Because we're in every corner of the state. You know, we always call it 3 C's with the big cities, but in small places like Alliance and Greenville, you know, little places that you may never heard of, but we have armories there and we have, you know, soldiers there every month.
On the program today is Colonel Jon Stewart, the Assistant Adjutant General, and he's in charge of the Ohio Army National Guard and all of the men and women who serve there. Also, we have Staff Sergeant Terrence Hall from Columbus, who is a recruiter, and we have Private Nicholas Hayes, who just joined the Guard just recently and just got back from basic training. Sergeant Hall, could you talk a little bit about if somebody joins the Guard, if you get somebody out of high school and they graduate from high school, how often can they expect to serve in the Guard, and then how often are they back home?
Yeah, so our primary commitment is 1 week in a month, 2 weeks in the summer. So your traditional guardsmen, they join the National Guard. They primarily live a normal life. So they're going, whether they're a full-time student or whether they're just working at a job or whatever they're doing that primarily. Then they're 1 week in a month, they'll come out to wherever their drill location is. They'll do their training, and then they'll take off the uniform, go home. Then they're normal civilians again. Our ages are from age 17 to age 42. So you could actually be someone that is a high school. I have several people that are in high school right now in the Hilliard area. They are in the National Guard, but now they're full-time students. They're in class right now. But at the end of the day, so we just had drill last weekend. They came out to us in RSP program, just to speak on that a little bit. So the purpose of this is to get them prepared to go to basic training. So we're teaching them things like room clearing, map reading, how to disassemble firearms, things like that. So that way when they go to basic training, it's not as much of a shock. Yeah.
And you talked about, some of them are students. They get help with college, right?
Yep. Yeah, so National Guard will pay 100% of your tuition to any of the major universities in the state of Ohio. If you're someone that goes to a private school, what we do is we take the average tuition and apply that to your tuition going to that private school. But if you go like Toledo, Columbus State, Ohio State, any of the major universities, we will cover 100% of your tuition. There are additional benefits as well, just depending on how you score on the ASVAB, which is the military entrance test. But you can qualify for additional GI Bill kickers. You can qualify for additional benefits as well. The average person is looking at about $750 a month just from going to school and then 1 week in a month.
Yeah, and we've changed what we pay for over the years. It used to be just college. Now it's also certifications. Because in this, today, there's a lot of young folks going for the trade schools, become plumbers, electricians, firefighters.
Firefighters, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and we'll pay for that certification. So it's not just college. We'll pay for those certifications as well.
And if somebody does get called up for an extended period of time, the law protects their job.
Absolutely.
It does, yeah. There are many laws in place, and being one of those individuals that's gone, many, many times, I'm telling you, the laws work. But more important to that, the employers know. The employers care. And I tell you, it's amazing what you see civilian employers do when somebody leaves for a year, to go on deployment overseas. Civilian employers still pay that individual, or they still provide benefits to that individual. And they're all different. They all do their own thing. But they're appreciative to have somebody serving in uniform, serving our country. And they'll still do those things. And then that individual comes back to their job, back to their way of life, and just gets reinserted back in.
Private Hayes, tell us a little bit about what your goals are, and do you have any special area that you'd like to learn some skills while you're in the Guard?
So currently I have an application put in for the State Patrol, and I was wanting to work in conjunction with the State Patrol and the National Guard and just try to move up through both of those avenues. I think ultimately I would really love to get an active Guard position, but that would just take some time and to work my way up and try to build my resume, kind of. This honestly is a great opportunity. I would recommend this to anyone who's even considering the National Guard or the military at all. This is a very good route to take, especially if you're young, or it goes all the way up to 42.
Well, Colonel, we're just about out of time here. For those who are listening, what would you like the people of Ohio to know about their National Guard?
Yeah, I want to know that we are here to serve them. We are here to serve the people of Ohio first and foremost. And when you see us, in the grocery store, or you see us in your community when we're doing emergency response, know that we are there for you. And we will always be there because, not only are we designed for it, and that's what we're paid to do, but that's what we want to do. And I would say the majority of the folks that are coming into the Guard today want to serve their community first and foremost. And we enjoy being out there with them.
Our guest on the program today has been Colonel Jon Stewart, who is the Assistant Adjutant General for the Ohio Army National Guard, and he brought a couple of his outstanding folks with him today, Staff Sergeant Terrence Hall of Columbus and Private Nicholas Hayes of Lancaster. So we'd like to thank you all for coming in today, and thank you for everything you do.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to Columbus Concerns, a public affairs presentation of North American Broadcasting. You can send questions or comments about today's show to Columbus Concerns in care of this station, 1458 Dublin Road, Columbus 43215. Or email us at columbusconcerns@napcomedia.com.